Okay, sometimes I look like something the cat drug in, and today is one of those days. So bear with me. All right, we're in Genesis chapter 19. Wow, in the last chapter, we talked about how the Lord was standing before Abraham and told him what he was about to do. Well, he said, "Should I tell him what I'm about to do?" He didn't exactly say it, but Abraham figured it out. He figured out that Sodom was in big trouble and that God was going to destroy them unless he found 10 righteous people there. Okay, so chapter 19, verse 1. The two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening. Okay, refresh our memory. 3 men appeared before Abraham. One was the Lord and stayed behind and talked to Abraham, where Abraham worked out that deal with the Lord to save Sodom if he found at least 10 righteous people. In the meantime, it says the other 2 men went ahead. They were going to Sodom to check it out. Okay, so this is where the 2 men show up. Verse 1. The 2 angels, now calls them angels. Didn't say they were angels before. Now we know. Out of those 3 men that appeared, 2 of them were angels, one of them was the Lord. Start it again. The 2 angels arrived at Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting in the gateway of the city. When he saw them, he got up to meet them and bowed down with his face to the ground. Okay, does seem to be customary that that's how they greeted strangers, or maybe even not strangers, just visitors. Verse 2, my lords, small l, masters, my lords, he said, please turn aside to your servant's house. You can wash your feet and spend the night and then go on your way early in the morning. Wow, he's learned his hospitality probably from Abraham, his uncle, who he spent a lot of time with, lived with for a long time. So he sees these 2 beings and he invites them into his home. No, they answered, we will spend the night in the square. Verse 3, but he insisted so strongly that they did go with him and entered his house. Now, why did he insist so strongly? Some people think it was because he wanted to protect the angels. Other people think it was just because it was the nice thing to do. Some people are very persistent. No, try this. I really want you to have a piece. Or so it might just be that he was just overly hospitable. He prepared a meal for them, baking bread without yeast, and they ate. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old. Let me repeat that. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young and old, surrounded the house. They called to Lot, where are the men who came to you tonight? So the word must have spread. Hey, there's some new guys here. Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. That's what it says. I'm going to reread this paragraph. Well, remember, it's not really paragraphs in the original script, and I'm not going to read it the whole part that we have broken down as a paragraph. Verse 4. Before they had gone to bed, all the men from every part of the city of Sodom, both young, all, both young and old, all of them, surrounded the house. Surrounded the house. They called to Lot. Doesn't say they knocked on his door or anything like that. They called to Lot. Where are the men who came to you tonight? Bring them out to us so that we can have sex with them. All the men of the city wanted these 2 new guys that came to the city to have sex with them. It doesn't sound like it's anything where they're asking for willing partner. I mean, this sounds like they are planning a gang rape. Every man in the city, both young and old. Maybe they did this with every man that entered the city. Maybe this was the great outcry that the Lord had heard. Verse 6. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him and said, "No, my friends, don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof." Do you have a problem with this? I do. Shouldn't his daughters also be under the protection of his roof? Can you imagine sacrificing your daughters to save 2 total strangers that came under the protection of your roof? Well, it might seem like the right thing to do, but those daughters also are under the protection of his roof. So yeah, I have a problem with this. By the way, it never says Lot's righteous. It's interesting, but, well, I voiced my opinion. Verse 6, I'm going to read it again. Lot went outside to meet them and shut the door behind him. He didn't want them to enter and get those guys. And said, "No, my friends." Think he was just trying to kiss up to them? Or are these really his friends? I mean, he lives there. These are his neighbors. They very well may be his friends. Remember, he chose to live there. He could have chosen to leave, too. Don't do this wicked thing. Look, I have 2 daughters who have never slept with a man. Let me bring them out to you, and you can do what you like with them. My blood's boiling on that. But don't do anything to these men, for they have come under the protection of my roof. Verse 9. Get out of our way, they replied. And they said, this fellow came here as an alien. Now they're talking about Lot. He's a stranger there. Remember, he was not born and raised there. So let me repeat that. Verse 9. Get out of our way, they replied. And they said, this fellow. They're not saying this friend. If he was a friend, he no longer is, because he's no longer agreeing to what they want. This fellow came here as an alien, and now he wants to play the judge? Why are they calling him a judge? Because he said, do not do this wicked thing. So he's saying what they're attempting to do is wicked. That is judging. He's judging what they decided to do. They decided to gang rape the 2 male strangers. And Lot's saying that's wicked. And they might think it's just fun. Or they might know in their heart it's wicked. But he is obviously judging it as a bad thing. Get out of our way, they replied, and they said, this fellow came here as an alien, and now he wants to play the judge. We'll treat you worse than them. They kept bringing pressure on Lot and moved forward to break down the door. So now they're planning to include Lot in the gang rape. And they say they're going to do worse to him. What's worse than gang rape? I mean, we can use our imagination. Maybe murder? Afterwards? I don't know. Verse 10. But the men inside, now these are the angels, they're now called the men, if these are the same 2 people, and I assume they are. Okay? But the men inside reached out and pulled Lot back into the house and shut the door. So they opened the door, grabbed Lot, pulled him in and shut the door. Then they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness, so that they could not find the door. So these angels now are using their abilities, which are beyond our abilities, obviously. They open the door, they grab Lot, they pull him in, they shut the door, and now they struck the men who were at the door of the house, young and old, with blindness so they could not find the door. Okay? So now we've got all these guys who wanted to gang rape the two angels and Lot. The angels get them into the house safely, shut the door, and then make the people on the outside, the men on the outside, blind. Verse 12. The two men said to Lot, "Do you have anyone else here? Sons-in-laws, sons or daughters, or anyone else in the city who belongs to you? Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place." The outcry to the Lord, and that's all capitals, that's Yahweh God, the outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. Get them out of here, because we are going to destroy this place. The outcry to the Lord against its people is so great that he has sent us to destroy it. We only know of one thing that they're doing. Gang raping guys. Or at least attempting to. Probably have done it before. I mean, every single guy in the city, both young and old, gathered around to do this. Don't know what else they have done or are capable of doing. But they proved their wickedness by attempting this while the angels were there to find out whether or not the outcries that had reached the Lord were true. Now they know they are. Verse 14. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He can go out now because all the people out there are blind. They can't get in. Lot can walk right past them. They don't even know it's Lot. So Lot went out and spoke to his sons-in-law, who were pledged to marry his daughters. He said, "Hurry and get out of this place, because the Lord is about to destroy the city." But his sons-in-laws thought he was joking. Well, wouldn't you, if someone came up to you and said, "Hurry up, get out of this city, because God's going to bring down fire and brimstone and destroy this place"? I think you'd want a little bit of proof that that's going to happen before you go and pack up all your stuff, jump in the car, and drive really far, really fast. Maybe you need to see if someone's starting to land. But his sons-in-laws thought he was joking. So they didn't just think he was crazy. They thought this was some kind of a joke. Verse 15, with the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot. Okay, now when the angels came, it was dark. It was nighttime. Because they were going to sleep in the square. It said the two angels arrived at Sodom in the evening. Okay, so Lot gave them shelter. So they came in the evening, but now dawn is coming. It says, verse 15, with the coming of dawn, so the night has passed. With the coming of dawn, the angels urged Lot, saying, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." So what happened here that the night passed? Did Lot go out and speak to his sons-in-law as they said, "Oh, you're just a big kidder"? And then Lot went back and they all went to sleep? And the angels had to stir them and say, "Hurry up, hurry up"? Or did Lot come back and they start packing things and working on, "Hey, we got to leave"? And they spent all night getting stuff ready. We don't know. We're not told. We can only theorize. But the angel said, "Hurry, take your wife and your two daughters who are here, or you will be swept away when the city is punished." They had a choice to stay. So that's for them. Lot, his wife, and his two daughters. Verse 16, when he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his two daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. So, okay, each angel has two hands, we're going to assume, because they look like men to these people. So that's four hands, for two angels. So this angel grabs Lot and his wife. The other angel grabs the one daughter and the other daughter, or something like that. And the two angels drag them out of the city to be merciful. Because they're taking their time and they're going to be destroyed with the city. And the angels don't want that to happen because the Lord didn't want it to happen. So when he hesitated, the men grasped his hand and the hands of his wife and of his two daughters and led them safely out of the city, for the Lord was merciful to them. Verse 17, as soon as they had brought them out, one of the angels said, flee for your lives. Now they have to hurry. They took too long. They could have probably taken their time and they left the night before. As soon as they brought them out, one of them said, flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains or you will be swept away. So the level ground is all in trouble. For some reason, they'll be safe if they go up into the mountains. So they're given instructions. Flee. Go really, really fast. Don't look back. Don't stop anywhere in the plain. Flee to the mountains. So go fast. Don't look back. Don't stop until you get up into the mountains. Okay? Verse 18. But Lot said to them, no, my lords, small l, masters. No, my lords, please. Your servant, your servant has found favor in your eyes, and you have shown great kindness to me in sparing my life. But I can't flee to the mountains. This disaster will overtake me and I'll die. He doesn't think he'd make it in time. He now realizes this is urgent. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. So now he's bargaining with the angels, just like Abraham bargained with the Lord as to not to destroy the city if he could find 10 righteous. Well, we know they couldn't find 10 righteous men in the city of Sodom because every single man, young and old, wanted to gang rape the angels and Lot and do even worse to Lot. Doesn't talk about the women there. Okay, so he bargains with them. Look, here is a town near enough to run to. So Lot thinks he and his wife and girls can make it to that. And it is small. Now, why is he saying it's small? Maybe because he knows that if God spares that town, he has to spare everybody in that town. And Lot's just emphasizing that. We're not really talking about saving a whole lot more people. It's only going to be a few. Small town. Maybe that's why he said that. Look, here is a town near enough to run to, and it is small. Let me flee to it. It is very small, isn't it? Then my life will be spared. He said to them, very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. That is why the town was called Zoar. Okay, so Zoar must have meant something that it was probably now called. It says this is why the town was called Zoar. So I'm guessing Zoar either means small, or Zoar somehow refers to being the only town spared, or a town that was saved, or a town that was protected. Something. So the angel said, very well, I will grant this request too. I will grant this request too. Did Lot make a request before that? Not that I remember. I don't remember him making a request. Maybe he did, and it's just not recorded in this story. Or maybe this is a request, and the other one he's talking about is the request from Abraham. He said to him, Very well, I will grant this request too. I will not overthrow the town you speak of, but flee there quickly, because I cannot do anything until you reach it. Now, these are angels, probably taking orders from the Lord. And they can't do anything until Lot's safe. That is why the town was called Zoar. Verse 23. By the time Lot reached Zoar, the sun had risen over the land. That town must have been a nice distance away. I mean, it was the coming of dawn. They're being drug out of Sodom. Now they're running for their lives. And by the time they reach it, the sun had risen over the land. I mean, it doesn't sound like it just popped up. It sounds like it might even be high noon or something. Verse 24. Then the Lord, and that's all capital, Yahweh, Father God. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain, including all those living in the cities, and also the vegetation in the land. But Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Okay, so they reached Zoar. They made it to Zoar. They were safe. But his wife broke one of the rules. Don't look back. We don't know why they were told not to look back, but she did. She saw something the others, her husband, Lot, didn't see. And her two daughters didn't see. We don't know what she saw. And we don't know if that's why the Lord had to destroy her as well, so that she couldn't say what she saw. Don't know. But she was told not to look back. And she did. And she was turned into a pillar of salt. I don't believe it's from the heat that she was turned into a pillar of salt, or wouldn't the others with her have been also turned into a pillar of salt? Or maybe they had some kind of protection on them to keep them from turning into a pillar of salt, but when she turned around and disobeyed the one rule, that protection was removed. I don't know. Just something to think about. But the Lord rained down burning sulfur. Burning sulfur. I saw that on TV once when someone took some sulfur and lit it up. They wanted to see what it'd be like. They ended up having to evacuate the entire building. I think the gases would have about killed them. I've also heard that burning sulfur would knock you out. If that's the case, then the people in the city went unconscious before they burned to death. And maybe they didn't burn to death. Maybe they went unconscious and died from the smoke inhalation. But it does appear as if they would have been unconscious before their death. So they wouldn't have died painfully as it might sound. Okay. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah. We weren't told of Gomorrah. Before, we were told that they were checking out Sodom. They went to Sodom. From the Lord out of the heavens. Thus he overthrew those cities and the entire plain. Those cities and the entire plain. It was all destroyed, including all those living in the city and all the vegetation in the land. Nothing survived this, including Lot's wife. She did not survive. Verse 27, early the next morning, Abraham got up and returned to the place where he had stood before the Lord. He looked down toward Sodom and Gomorrah, toward all the land of the plain, and he saw dense smoke rising from the land, like smoke from a furnace. So he was checking to see what had happened. He went to sleep, probably thinking everything would be okay, because surely he'll find 10 righteous. And he goes out there and he looks. And now he sees the smoke billowing up like from a furnace, and he knows. He might not know Lot's safe. Verse 29, so when God destroyed the cities of the plain, he remembered Abraham, and he brought Lot out of the catastrophe that overthrew the cities where Lot had lived. So it was because of Abraham's righteousness. It was because of Abraham's relationship with God. It was because of Abraham that Lot and his family was spared. Well, his wife would have been spared too. She was drug out of the city. It was her choice to look back. But it was because of Abraham that his nephew and 2 daughters ended up being saved. And Abraham never stood there and pled for Lot and his family. He pled for the whole city. But God did this as a favor to Abraham. Saved Lot and Lot's daughters. Okay, now here comes another weird section. We're still in chapter 19. Okay, verse 30. Lot and his 2 daughters left Zoar and settled in the mountains, for he was afraid to stay in Zoar. So Zoar was bad too. Maybe it was as bad as Sodom and Gomorrah and should have been destroyed with Sodom and Gomorrah, but was spared only for the sake of Lot. Maybe they weren't that bad. I don't know. But for some reason, Lot and his 2 daughters are afraid to stay in Zoar. He and his 2 daughters lived in a cave. Verse 31, one day the older daughter said to the younger, our father is old and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. So they're living up in the mountains, just the 3 of them, cut off from everybody else, and there's no way they're going to get a husband in this case, in this situation. Verse 32, so the older daughter says, going back to 31, our father is old, and there is no man around here to lie with us, as is the custom all over the earth. Verse 32, let's get our father to drink wine, and then lie with him and preserve our family line through our father. Ew. They want to get, the older one says, let's get our father drunk. We'll sleep with him, we'll get pregnant, and we can continue our family line, because otherwise it ends here. Verse 33, that night they got their father to drink wine, and the older daughter went in and lay with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Verse 34, the next day the older daughter said to the younger, last night I lay with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again tonight, and you go in and lie with him, so we can preserve our family line through our father. So they got their father to drink wine that night also, and the younger daughter went and lay with him. Again, he was not aware of it when she lay down or when she got up. Now, this is not something that God asked them to do. This is a plan that the older daughter created in her own mind, and now they're fulfilling this plan. Verse 36, so both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. The older daughter had a son, and she named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites of today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ben-Ami. He is the father of the Ammonites of today. That's the end of chapter 19. But before I end, the father had to have figured out what went on, right? I mean, there's no other man around, and then both his daughters get pregnant and have sons, so they must have admitted at that time what had happened, what they did. That's my theory. Or he wasn't a very bright man. I don't know. Okay, talk to you later. Bye.